All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Resilient Voices and Beyond. My name is Michael D. Davis Thomas. I'm your host. I'm so excited to have my third episode here and to just be pushing this thing out. I appreciate all you guys that have been listening. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest here. I have Darius Pettway, just all out outstanding guy. Most people don't know, but we have a long history with each other. He was a life coach when I was in independent living at a program, and he helped me get to where I am today. So I'm gonna have him introduce himself, and kind of get into what he's doing, what is his program and everything he got going.
What's going on, Mike? Man, I'm gonna tell you, it's such an honor to be here on this Zoom call with you. It's such an honor to be a part of this podcast. It's such an honor to be a part of your story. It's such an honor again to be a part of your message and how you're trying to empower this world and also inspire other young adults. Again, my name is Darius Pettway, and I am the founder of Darius Pettway Life School, where together our mission is to restore hope and opportunity into young adults by providing them with the tools of leadership, self-empowerment, and conflict resolution to unlock their hidden potential through mentoring services. Again, I'm excited to dive deep into this podcast, have some fun, have some transparent conversations, some laughs, and we can draw people in as far as how we want to impact and change this world and leave a legacy.
Thank you. So, man, I know you from when I was trying to get my life together and trying to figure out my next steps and stuff like that. So I kind of want to kind of start there with you. Like, how did you become who you are today? Like, what was your journey?
Absolutely. I would say just to kind of, to just kind of get into that subject, I think what made me become who I am today was a lot of failures, right? Making a lot of mistakes. And I look back at it, a lot of things that I've been through, kind of, fast forward in the conversation, is that God put me in those situations because he knew the journey he was going to take me on. Right. When I was a kid and, I was struggling with identity, right, and discovering who I was as a person, and going through that process, I've discovered that one of my most tangible items or, my gift to this world was my heart and also my story. But in order to get to that part, God had to put me through some things so I can show myself worthy of who I want to become and also inspire others to become. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So for me, when I came through my journey and how I really reached that point, and I tell young adults all the time, when I was 17 and I was incarcerated and I was sitting in a cell when I was depressed, when I didn't understand why I was going through my situation, and I had reached out to who I thought was a friend at that time, going through relationships, how we get the puppy love and everything going on. Right. And I was discovering that when I was at my lowest, people was leaving me. But also while people was leaving me, he was elevating me to get to places that I had no experience, no relationships, because that pain was going to get me there. And I remember just asking, like, God, why me? We all get into that mode where it's just like, God, why me? And it's like most people say, don't question God, but it's kind of like a human nature to question because you don't understand. It's a feeling of not understanding. So you say, well, why am I in this situation? And I heard him say, and I remember it vividly, and I tell it all the time. And he said, if you give me you, I changed your life. And he spoke it in a language that I would understand in that moment, being a 17-year-old. And I remember it again so vividly. And to this day, he said, if you give me you, I saved your life.
And that's such a blessing to hear. I have like a similar story to that. Most of my listeners may not know, but I spent most of my time in the juvenile side before I went into the foster care side. So right. I was in and out of that, that system, and I was treated completely different from being on the foster care side. And I had been raised in the church. I had been, a part of the choir and everything like that. But as a kid, you don't know so much about where your faith stands until you get right into it. And right. When I had got put in juvenile my last time, I had came to a realization that I can't do this no more. Yeah. And I remember praying in my juvenile cell and just having a great moment with God. And I from there I just it's like I got to turn it around. That, you know, I still stumbled. I still like messed up. I remember going off on staff, going off on everybody and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I chose at that moment, and it sounded like what you did. You chose at that moment that you wanted to be different. You wanted something different for yourself and for your journey.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, and we can even dive into some of some of the stories that you and I encountered, and most people, even for the young adults that's tuning in, into this episode, it's going to be trials and tribulations, right? It's going to be obstacles that you're going to encounter. Everything is not going to be goody two shoes, and one of the things that I try to incorporate, when we was at HC, I just use AC, in terms of this podcast, but you and I understand what AC stand what it stands for. But I just speak about some of the candid conversations, so people, so people can also understand some of the things you had to go through to get here, and me being, over that residential treatment, whatever we want to call it, that house at that time, we had a lot of ups and downs, right? We had guys coming in the house bringing in guns. We had just we had people almost about to burn up the house, cooking food. But let's just kind of get in some of those stories, man. I think it's good to kind of talk about it and just kind of laugh about it now that we're at a different stage in life. And one thing I remember is that we had conversations, right? We used to have our house meetings, and we would always begin it with all in, right? We're going to have this house meeting. We're going to have some uncomfortable conversations, but I need to know in the beginning, are you all in, right? And one thing that I try to talk about during that, time that we have for our house meetings was accountability, right? We can't, and a wise man told me this, and it's something I remember for the rest of my life. He said, there are going to be some things that you're going to feel that you can handle, and you're going to be able to get through, and you're going to be able to, kind of put that masculinity, the muscles, into something that you can feel, oh, I did this. I'm a man now, right? I did it. I did this. I changed this, or I was able to do this. I'm a man. But he also said there's going to be some things that you're going to be encountered that you're not going to be able to use same muscles, right? And you're going to have to prove that you are a man. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what about when things go awry or when things get uncomfortable? And you're not going to be able to say, well, I can use my muscles to move this table over here. But what about when you're not at a level where you could physically move that table and you got to use your mind? See, you can use your mind to kind of get through life's situations and storms that as a man, your physical body is just not going to be able to get you through. And your mind is one of the most powerful muscles in the body. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But again, kind of going backwards, one thing and still to this day, I kind of use those same principles, right? Accountability. Accountability is so important because it puts your mind in perspective of, okay, why am I in this situation? And how can I get out of it? And how can I inspire other people not to get in it? And I think we did an overall good job as we progressed throughout the months, being in that program, especially you. I think you were one of the most stellar. And, every meeting we had, hey, look at Mike, he's an ideal, he's ideal, right? If you want to model behavior, if you want to model what you should be doing, if you want to model, going to bed, if you want to model getting up, if you want to model, how your paperwork should look, if you want to model, look at Mike, right? And then people would, y'all always saying, Mike, what else you want me to say? He's doing everything right. I'm trying to give you an example. And, some of those stories and that time, not only, was I able to be a benefit to you all, but you all played a huge role in my life because I was still young at that time and going through college, right? So I'm gonna turn it over to you. But again, that was an amazing, graceful time that I had with you all.
That journey for me was like the start, and it's kind of indifferent, to say the least, because when I got to the foster care side of things and the different placements, and then eventually got into independent living, and that was my last stop, completely in the system before I went into a young adult voluntary foster care. So when I got to independent living, I was at a point where I'm like, I can't just, do my time and get out, because it's easy to get that mindset when you're in a residential facility. Like, all right, I'm gonna do my time, I'm gonna be in this unit. I ain't gonna let nobody knock me off my block. I'm gonna try to get my home visits, get my phone, all that stuff. Like, it's easy to get into a mindset, okay, this is what I can do. Don't let nobody get you off your block.
Correct.
When I got to independent living, that's a whole different story. So a lot of different things that are on you, and the program that I was a part of was still trying to get itself together,
Yeah.
So me being in this program as an independent living person, trying to depend on, the adults in the program to help me out. I saw, through my experience that it still was trying to develop. Luckily, a couple of good staff passed through like yourself and, tried to take that reign and stuff like that. But the overall system of it was still building, it was a pilot program when I got into it. So I had to suffer through a lot of things not really working.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember nights like when I had a job and the guys didn't want to get all in the van to come get me because we didn't have so I remember like, look, I've been out for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Running and everything.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of stuff that will be easy. Like, I think back to my early ages in residential, like I would have got mad at that. Like I would have got mad and wanted to come back and fight them because I'm like, it's cold outside. Like I'm actually doing, I gotta do going to school, working, and all I needed is a ride.
Right, yeah.
I learned that I had to set an example. Not saying that sometimes I failed at that, but I had to lead by example. And I stumbled a lot of times. I'm pretty sure you can attest. Like I went on people several times and stuff like that. But I made sure that like this is not where I wanted to be. Like I had a judge tell me that I was a menace to society. At some point, that I wasn't gonna make it, and she was willing to lock me up for the rest of my life. When I heard that, I was just like, I'm menace to society. What? Like that's deep. Like
that's beyond.
Like, that's almost for me like saying you hate somebody, and it struck me in that same level. I was like, that's how people view me. That's how people see me. So a lot of stuff had to change internally with myself and, my experience, leading to going into foster care and leading to going into juvenile. I had to take that responsibility of the actions that led me. Like, it wasn't just my family. It wasn't just the environment. I contribute to that too. And I had to get to a place where I was like, okay, Michael, this happened to you. What next? What next? Because after you leave here, you out in society as your own adult. There few people gonna care about, okay, dang, that happened to you. How can I help you? But not everybody's gonna care that you've been abused, that you were homeless, all these different scenarios and stuff like that can happen to anybody. And when I got to a place and realized all that, I was like, it's time to grind. It's time to get it together. So I was waking up at like 5 a.m., getting myself together, getting out there to the bus, waking up early to go to the school, and then sitting there taking my time because I sucked at math. A lot of people don't know, like I struggled with math. I still struggle with math today.
Absolutely.
I really did not learn my multiplication until like my senior year. Like a lot of people don't know that, and it's not something I just bolt and say, but it's a true story. Like the No Child Left Behind kind of just swept me through, and when I got to high school, I realized that I really got to learn something. But I was so conflicted by everything that happened to me when I got to school. Being bullied and being abused and stuff like that. I didn't take no notice in schoolwork, so it took a lot, and to say the least, I still try to keep in touch with some of the guys that I was in places with and independent living with, and it saddens me to know that like half of them still ain't make it. So we had a girl pilot program that started shortly after the guys, and most of them, sadly got sucked up into sex trafficking,
Ran away. Yeah.
in young abusive relationships, and different things like that. And I'm like, for a while when I heard that, I was like, dang, I was kind of the leading person for all of them, HC kind of like bolted me up to kind of like mentor everybody. And I was like, I felt bad when I heard those stories. I felt like, dang, like, what could I have done? And I'm like, I made a personal choice at that time. It wasn't really on me. They had to make that same personal choice for themselves.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, sometimes those people fall through the cracks because so many things have happened to them,
And it's definitely, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It's definitely a lot of trauma involved, and you can kind of see it as we do intake and we go through the door. But I have a question, right? Just listen at that story, and really me, like I was able to see that transition. Like I was there the days you was upset. I was there, the days you were happy. I was there the days when I said, "Hey, Mike, can you go talk to this student?" I was there when we had fights, and you would be there trying to break it up. But at the same time, I kind of feel like me being as a staff, like we kind of put pressure on you that shouldn't have been on you, right? Because we didn't allow you time to grow. So you were growing, discovering, and helping at the same time. But then again, you see how powerful you are. And because of that, you are able to become, and you are who you are because you have, and some people don't understand. Sometimes you have to smile and inside you're crying. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you have to love other people, but inside you don't even know how to love yourself. And I hate to use the word hate, but I've dealt with kids that said, I love this, but I hate me, right? Like I hate what I see. I hate the reflection, right? Mm-hmm. So I have a question too, but I think I'm gonna just leave it for one. How did you arrive at that point where you said, you know what? I'm tired of JJ. Judge say I'm gonna be a menace. Right, I'm going through all of this, lack of as far as peer support, parent support, staff support, program support. It's just a whole system that just won't leave me alone, right? How did you arrive to the point where you say, you know what, this is next, and this is how I'm going to do it?
Oh man, so like my whole experience of it all wasn't really bad. Like I've had a lot. I use the analogy that I've encountered a lot of different people, and I've come across a lot of people that have left breadcrumbs that eventually made a loaf of bread for me. When I was at the final steps of the JJ, I think my last placement was Star Commonwealth. I don't think it's still open now, but it was Star Commonwealth. That was my last placement on the juvenile side. And at that point, I did everything I needed to do in school. I actually flourished in school and the placement atmosphere. Excuse me. And I went to court, and when I went to court, for some reason they always had court on my birthday. Always had it on my birthday. But I went to court and told them like, look, I'm doing this, and this. What else? And I still had time to do because like 6 to 9 months they try to keep you in there to that time limit.
Absolutely.
That time, and I remember my grandmother, I believe she was 72 at the time, on oxygen, going off on my judge, fighting for me, and I saw that, and I'm like, me and my grandma had a great relationship, but we didn't have the best relationship because at that time, so many people tried to be my parents, and my own parents wasn't being my parents, So for me at that age, when so many people tried to be my parent, there was a reflection that I couldn't really like take it in. Like I was in the early preteens and whichever, and I just fought it back, and it happened because a lot of things that I endured at a young age, I finally numbed out. And when I numbed out, that led to the behavior issues that led me into the juvenile system. So I would have to say that last time going to court, seeing, somebody actually stand up for me and stuff like that. And I was like, this ain't nobody else's job but my own, At some point, I have to realize that I don't want to be another statistic. I am a young Black man. I'm eventually either going to be continuing in this pipeline or, working to change this pipeline. And I got out on intensive probation. And I don't know if anybody in the audience knows what intensive probation is, but I had to check in with, probation officer, had the foot lock thing and stuff like that. I can only go to school and home. And in between that time, my mom, which was a paraplegic at that time, she had five strokes when I was at 11 and stuff like that. And my mom came home from rehab. So it was pretty much me and my sister taking care of her, me and my sister trying to work and get things done and stuff like that. And once I went back to court, I did everything on my intensive probation. I went to the judge and my grandma was like, hey, we're getting ready to move to Georgia. Maybe this would be a different, place for me to be and stuff like that. So they released me out of the juvenile system. They released me. 6 months later, my grandma passed away. Now, my mom was still there, and in this 6 month period, it was pretty much me there. And I was, pretty much taking care of my mom and my grandma, going to school and stuff like that. And there were struggles with that. Like, I wouldn't even say that I was completely in a place to be able to do that. Like, once again, I'm doing adult things, and that kind of was my storyline, from like 11 to this, because like my mom has stroke, so I got to help take care of her. My dad is wherever to be found, so now I got to try to be my own man. Me and my siblings, we had an okay relationship, but our relationship was not really all that solid growing up. So when I got to this place and my grandma had passed away and other people making decisions for me to come back to Michigan, it was rough, me and my sister bounced around. She eventually took guardianship over me, and the guardianship didn't really work out. Me and my sister would argue. Sister got to a place where she wanted to put her hands on me, and I got to a place where I wanted to put my hands back. And I said, at this point, I'm going back in the juvenile system if I do this, So the next guardianship hearing that I had, it was a review hearing. The judge actually didn't show up. I told him I didn't want to go back home. And when I told him I didn't want to go back home, they kept asking me several times, like, you don't want to go back home? Do you want to go back home? And I kept telling them no. Like, I stuck with my first answer, and I did that because I knew being at home, I was going to find myself back in the juvenile or in jail. I knew the environment that I had wasn't stable and it was very dysfunctional. I know my sister tried her best, but my sister wasn't equipped to be a parent, at a young age, she had to be my mom's guardian and then try to be my guardian, and really didn't have that trauma-informed training to really help me or help herself, and then there was a lot. So that, when I look back at that, at taking the responsibility of my actions and just seeing the other side, I don't blame her, but I know that there was things at play that neither one of us had the support for. So when I got into foster care, I still say today that foster care saved my life because it gave me the opportunity to go to college. I probably wasn't going to college. I would have stayed, in Detroit. That's just a realistic point of view. I didn't see myself making it past 16, 18, stuff like that. So getting into the foster care system, it opened up a door for me. And at that point, I was like, I had been through the juvenile system, so going to a placement, that ain't nothing. I can do my time and get out and stuff like that. And when I got there, it was a struggle because the system is terribly broken. It was a mesh of people in these units that I was in these residentials, and they had a lot of issues. And every program that I went to was group-based, so we couldn't focus on the individual trauma. So they only put us in like this melting pot and we would fight. There was contraband. People lose their visits because there's contraband. I was considered what you call like a positive peer. So, and saying that there was a positive peer, there was a negative peer. Like it literally was like when I go back and watch, 60 Days In and all these other prison shows and stuff like that, it literally was like that. You got like pod bosses in these residential facilities. And when I remember one instance where there was a cell phone, and I knew who had a cell phone and stuff like that. The staff came to me and was like, "Hey, Michael, because you're the positive, we trust you, whichever you're in, stuff like that. Who got the cell phone?" I was like, "I don't even know who got the cell phone. I can't even hold you," because in that mentality, no matter what, even if I don't like the negative peer or whichever, we still in here together. We the kids,
Absolutely.
So it's not, I'm not helping out the staff. But what I did do after that conversation, I went, I was like, "Hey, come on over here. Look, they know you got this phone. I don't know what you gonna do, but I'm not losing my home pass."
Yeah. You're gonna shut the whole spot down.
Right. And it was conversations like that, and these are the conversations that people don't know about. Like, this is how literally these facilities are ran, like these lockdown facilities, these low secure, minimum secure, like in these group-based programs, kids are forced to be in this kind of mentality. So when they get back out, I remember going back on home passes because I still wanted to keep that relationship with my family. I didn't want to stay with them because I knew it wasn't the best environment for me. But I did still want to kind of build that relationship and keep that relationship with my mom and my sister. So I eventually got my home passes court ordered because of this reason, because they kept trying to say, "We're gonna take them if y'all do this," and I didn't like that being held over my head. So I got my home passes court ordered. But a lot of times in those placements and different things like that, it's just it messes you up to a point where you're institutionalized. And when I would come home to those home passes, I remember pacing back and forth because I didn't know how to sit down. I didn't know whether to ask my sister, like, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom?" Can I go and stuff like that. Like, there's little things like that really, like, it took me about 3 hours from my first home pass to really just sit down and relax and stuff like that. But I say all this to kind of wrap that around. Like, it took me really hearing everybody at a certain point, finally taking everything that I've heard, because I don't want to say that my ears were shut or anything like that. I was still receiving, "Hey, Michael, you can do this. Like, you ain't got to really be in all this other stuff, and stuff like that." I finally got to a place when I was coming toward the end of my juvenile stint, that I was like, I got everything that people were saying. Like, I hear y'all, and I gotta do better, and what really hit me, I remember being on the juvenile side, because when they took me from that court hearing, they took me to Oakland County Children's Village. And I was like, I ain't did nothing wrong this time. I'm asking for help,
Yeah.
So they took me to a building in the back of the juvenile where they hold like the foster youth and stuff like that.
Correct.
I remember spending several months in there waiting for a placement and whichever. And every month I would, every day I would pray and so forth. So when I would pray, somebody else like, "Hey, can I pray with you?" Whichever. By the time I got ready to leave, we all praying together, including the staff and stuff like that. So it was moments like that that really was like, okay, Michael, although you got to go through this is where you need to be, and that showed me, because after I had told him, like, I didn't want to go back home, I'm pretty much sticking with my freedom, because that's what it looked like to me when I went to the juvenile. I'm like, now y'all locking me up because I'm asking for help. Like, I'm telling y'all that, like, the guardianship ain't working, and stuff like that. So for me, when I saw that, I'm surrounded by barbed wire gates and stuff like that, staff and everything. Being in that moment, I was like, like I'd be lying if I didn't like regret it in the beginning. It was like, maybe I could have just sucked it up, maybe I could have just dealt with, all the other stuff. And then I was like, no, God is with me, throughout this. So, and that kind of started my relationship getting deeper, with God and my faith and stuff like that. And it helped me get through the placements that I had been in, through independent living, through, dealing with racial slurs from roommates and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
and
Remember Gabe?
it helped me tolerate some of those things. Not saying that I wasn't on the edge. Like I'm not saying that I'm perfect, because there was many times where I was on the edge of getting restrained myself. But I'm thankful to say I've never been restrained throughout that. Like it's been some times when it came close on the juvenile side and on the foster side where I'm like, look, bro, like he gonna have to get it. I and y'all just gonna have to put me to the ground at this point because But I'm thankful that I was able to see that wasn't gonna get me nowhere, and as well. I try to prevent that from other people because I'm like, you shouldn't want anybody to put their hands on you. You shouldn't get to a point where somebody should have to put their hands on you, and you should feel better for yourself. You should treat yourself better. And I ain't gonna lie, me being positive all the time, got me in trouble. Toward relationships with people and stuff like that. And I'm gonna share one other story. Because I was like positive. I remember one time I was a kid, I was a roommate of mine, and this is when I was on the juvenile side. When I had told him like, hey man, chill out. They had put him to the ground. They had restrained him. I'm telling him, hey man, chill out. He in the hallway. We can't. None of us see. We all in a room and stuff like that. He gets mad at me. And like start talking to him like, yeah, I'm gonna get you or whatever, and so wake up the next morning. He been whatever. I'm brushing my teeth. He comes to the bathroom, fist ball, and I already know he's gonna try to hit me. He goes and hit me. Like, I mean, he hits me with toothpaste sprays against the window. I'm like, it hit me like my soul. My soul was like, I really should just hit you back at this point, or just go let staff know, because he was a trouble kid and stuff like that. I was just like, you know what, you must have needed that, in my mind. I'm like, you must have needed that, because like, like me giving you positive words of encouragement so you can get up off the ground. I had nothing to do with why you hit me, or why you was on the ground and stuff like that. Sorry to say, like I tried to befriend the guy, I tried to be more encouraging to the guy, and sadly the kid got escalated, to a whole nother placement and stuff like that. But I say that story because in a matter of seconds, like, when you're in those placements and you're in these facilities and stuff like that, you put in difficult spaces to maintain your program. And I say your program because you the only one in the courtroom with the judge, especially if you're in the juvenile side. You're the only one that got to report back. Like, even if you get into a fight and it was justified, they're going to ask you, why did you hit him back? And stuff like that. So I say that story, like, to those who've listening or those who have had an experience in these places, that, I recognize that you probably have been put in some difficult decisions, difficult spaces and difficult environments and stuff like that. And I understand that probably the juvenile side or the foster care side wasn't too better than being at home,
Yeah.
But the fact that you're still here today shows your resilience. So, don't let that experience be your demise. Kind of look at it and try to let it fuel whatever you're doing. You may not be an advocate, you may not be a mentor, whichever, whatever you're doing, take that energy from all you have to go through and fuel it into something that's encouraging, that's uplifting in your life. And it, I'm not the one to judge what that may be. You're the only one that can make the decision on what that may be for you. For me, it's advocating, it's returning the favor of what the system has done for me by helping me make it out, and helping me be who I am. So I give back, by advocating, by, trying to make it better. But for other people that may be different. So just take that story as a extended encouragement.
Powerful, powerful, very, very powerful. And I think back and I look back and when you think about your story and how that is kind of one of those things that you can put on a mountaintop to say, hey, listen, like this is what can get you from A to B. And then once you get to B, you can get to C. But it's no way to get to C without getting to A and then getting to B. It's like it's a journey you had to go through. And for me, looking back at that and just listening, it's like you can see the maturity process throughout that. And that's why, when I'm in rooms and we have conversations and we're advocating for placement. And I think as the system progressed, because there has been some progression with the system in certain areas, even with, age jurisdiction throughout the country. It's 3 states, Texas, Wisconsin, and Georgia, that we're still looking to get on board to say, hey, you should treat a juvenile at this age and the adult at this age. But I think there's some discrepancy as far as how we should handle foster care and juvenile. And when you place those two together, sometimes you can traumatize a person even more. And I hated that being in, HC, because you were at a point where you're getting ready to transition out. So you're on your, let's say your 8th month, okay, we're about to transition you out. We're about to get you an apartment. We're about to get you your license. You've been doing all your life skills. Like you're ready to live on your own. And then I bring in the kid first day, and he can kind of re-traumatize you, get you in a situation, like you say, you get into a fight, and then the judge is saying, why do you hit back? Okay, well, you still, you need some anger management. So we're going to put you back in the system. Because I bring in someone now. The treatment should also say that, okay, well, you was dealing with an angry person. Why didn't you use the skills that you learned the 8 months to kind of ignore it? But like you say, you was brushing your teeth, and he just hit you. So at what point do we even tell our youth to say, stand up for yourself, right? And I think it's important that you even have this platform because it gives you a voice, right? And also stories to let people know you're not alone. It's other people that have been through that. And then you can kind of use that blueprint to kind of move forward. But I think there's definitely within the system some reform that needs to go on, how we handle juvenile and how we handle foster care. Because like you said previously, why am I here? I didn't even do nothing this time. But you're around a bunch of students that their whole treatment plan is based on, I won't say punitive, because it rehabilitation for a behavior or something that you've done to victimize someone, versus foster care it could be a situation where you just don't have anywhere to go. Healthy. You have somewhere to go, but it's not healthy for your progression. So we're going to keep you here. And I struggle with this. Like, how do I treat Michael versus how do I treat him without letting the whole house know that there's some kind of unfairness going on? Like, he get to do this. Hey, bro, he ain't in the same situation as you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to get a phone call at 8 in the morning saying that he didn't go to school when you clearly should be in school because the house is not staffed. Now I got to come all the way over here to see who's stuck in the house, sleep or smoking weed in the whole house. It's like I don't have to worry about that when it comes to him. But with you, it's like I got to kind of hire a security staff to watch you 24/7 because you're just not at that level. So, I mean, I definitely appreciate your story. And again, it's so much reform that needs to go on. But a part of that is individuals such as yourself empowering other people, and also you telling your story, because stories really gravitate change.
Definitely. I appreciate, being able to do this. It's a very unique experience, being able to sit here with, what was essentially one of our staff members, and I hope, one thing that I can give you by, doing this and having this conversation is to just let you know that I'm all right. Things that you said to me did resonate and help me. I ain't gonna say, we liked each other, you
Yeah.
know, all the time.
Yeah.
There were some very heated moments and stuff like that because I'm just like, hey, the bro tripping, like why, and stuff like that. And I understand that you were put in a very difficult position, and stuff like that. But like that time, like I wasn't caring about that. Like I'm trying to do what I gotta do,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do want you to know, like, I heard you and things that you did say resonated with me and helped me help others.
Absolutely.
I went on, to work for residentials myself.
Yeah.
Went on to work in the mental health field and do all these other things using some of the same tactics that Mr. Baker and some other people, that I've that were strong mentors and stuff like that. And when I tell people, I didn't have a father figure to kind of give me a representation of what it meant to be like a man. What to ask a girl out, or all these different things. A lot of things that I've learned and how to be who I am as a man has been through staff members, and has been through watching TV. Like literally watching TV and seeing the different dads and guys and stuff like that, and implementing certain things to be who I am today as a man and stuff like that. And sadly, that that's a lot of the youth story, coming in. They don't have moms or dads to kind of show them that representation, and that burden is sadly put on staff members to kind of show them that, social workers to kind of show them that and stuff like that. And as they try to get you guys fresh out of college, so I ain't had no kind of parenting skills sometimes. And I'm not saying this to everybody, because some people are parents and stuff like that, but for most of y'all, you guys are young adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much parenting, people that's almost close to your age if you teach in independent living.
Correct.
And it was crazy to me to come to that realization and see that for myself working in the field. So I just want to extend out like a thank you for all that you did to me and did for me, and just all the words that you've given me, and even send a thank you for those who cannot say it, who are not here with me today. And I appreciate what you're doing, to kind of help your students and to kind of strive on. It didn't just stop for you at HC, even though I know that it probably was the best experience. You didn't let that kind of like, okay, I might need to change my major to another field because all right, but I'm glad that you continued on, and that shows your resilience, and your perseverance. I do have a couple more questions for you. And one of the questions is, I know you've developed your program and, encouraging students and different things like that. How have you been able to continue through what you're doing throughout COVID, and how has that, affected you,
Correct. Yeah, I mean, COVID has definitely been something that no one has a blueprint for, because it just came about, right? This is our first time in our history that, we had to wear masks and, 6 feet apart. We had to unbecome everything that we become, right? We learned in those social emotional learning skills, how to socialize. Then we had to break those barriers. Okay, how do we unbecome what we worked so hard to become? And that was a challenge. So for us in our programs, at Life School, I consider myself, and even also for the staff and board members, we're frontline workers, right? When I say frontline workers, we're there knowing that, hey, this is our legacy. This is why we're living to die, and this is what we're going to die for. So even if it's, okay, making sure we have safety measures in place with our programs, right? Or even saying, you know what, because of the safety of COVID, let's go virtual, right? Maybe I can't physically touch you because I don't want to get you sick. And then this stuff is deadly, right? We can hop on Zoom and have a conversation. Or we can say, okay, we can have this program, but we need to have safety measures in place, 6 feet apart, you over there, wear your mask. But we just been rolling, and, special thanks to everybody, the staff, the board members, even the community that's have really helped us with everything thus far. We had an event on the 21st. It was a Christmas event where we brought our kids together to empower and inspire hope, and also advocate for change. And we had a great time, and, no one got sick, and we're just rolling. We're just moving. We're understanding that we're frontliners, and we can't lose the war of empowering and changing the lives of our students because of COVID. We have to continue to fight the fight.
Okay, I appreciate that, and that's so inspiring and encouraging. I hope for the listeners that are trying to figure out ways to still work with their youth and stuff like that and their programs. They can take some of that and utilize that. My last question is, what's next for you? What's going on after this? Like what are you planning to do? What are you aspiring to do? I know you are a motivated young man.
Yeah.
Young
I'm
man,
getting up there.
Absolutely. And you're striving, and I just want to know what's next for you, your program and so forth.
I think what's next for me, and again, I just, give all glory to God who has been with me since day one, when times I wanted to give up, when I didn't even think I would get to this point. And I tell people, and even sometimes I have to remind myself, it's like, I'm not where I want to be, but you're not where you used to be. Right. Sometimes you got to, like Steve Jobs said, sometimes you have to look back to connect the dots to see where you're going, to understand I've been through this so I can get here. And I think what's most important for me at this time, and it's simultaneously, tackling different subjects and different things. But I'm a father now. I have a little girl, and, I love her dearly. And, it's amazing to hear her say, Dad, help, or Dad, love you, or just certain things. And it's really inspiring me to say, okay, when I leave this earth, I want my little girl to know that her dad left a legacy, right? I want her to be reminded that my dad did this. He didn't just live to die. He didn't just live and just went home and, worked a 9 to 5, and he just watched TV and just, he left a mark on the lives of different people. But it's also a global mindset, and that's something I learned from my Bishop T.D. Jakes, is how to be global, how to and ambassador this message, right, and get it global. And that's something we're pushing: the program, the book, my story. How do I get to a global so I can take on the responsibility of saving the lives of so many young people that were in a situation like mine, that didn't have a mom or dad that could accomplish A, B, and C, whether it be college, whether it be business, or just understanding that I have to divorce different cultures and traditions, right? And I have to get a mindset that no one around me have, right? How do you go from being in the hood or being traumatized or being in the system to say, I want to educate myself and go to college? It's almost borderline impossible, because the language, the structure, the discipline is so different. So for me, moving forward, is how do I get this and what I'm doing to a global level to let people know, don't give up, keep going. Even if you're depressed, even if you're sad, even if you're lonely, reach out to me, right? It's people in the world that really care about your well-being. So I'm looking to go to a global level so I can inspire. And I guess that's a new word, inspire and empower. We're going to put them together. But for me, inspire and empower on a global level.
Well, I just want to say thank you, for all that you're doing and all that you will do. I know that you're a truly blessed young man. You're doing God's work out here, and, you're changing lives, and that is what's needed, And one thing I do want to say, being an African-American male doing what you're doing is inspiring, so just keep doing it. There's a lot of guys like myself that didn't have father figures. And I want to say that you kind of represented a role model for me, what to do as a man. And I took some of those lessons in my life, and glad to say that I'm here today because of those lessons that I took from you and I've learned. So I just want to thank you for joining me here on Resilient Voices and Beyond. I hope you just stay encouraged and motivated and stay safe.
And I want to say one more thing for the viewers and the listeners. If you're able to, go to www.dariuspetway.org and purchase a chance to listen. All proceeds go to our juvenile and youth development programs. Again, The book is titled A Chance To, and it's only available at www.dariuspetway.org. Again, I'm out. I love you all. Again, Michael, thank you for having me. And I look forward to just continuously to partner with you to inspire the lives of people and empower voices.
All right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.